This adventurous story begins by showcasing a vast desert area. In this entire region, not a single tree or plant can be seen for miles around. Additionally, the heat here was so intense that the temperature soared high above normal. Due to the increasing heat on Earth, the entire area had become barren like this. We are introduced to a man named Max, who is continuously moving forward to reach a specific destination. Due to the scorching sun, Max is extremely thirsty, but finding water in such a place is very difficult. Nevertheless, Max keeps traveling toward his destination so that he doesn't collapse from exhaustion. After traveling several kilometers, Max spots a group of people heading toward a settlement. Without thinking twice, he heads toward them. Initially, Max believes that it must be a mirage caused by the desert heat, as travelers often hallucinate in such conditions, just like mirages seen by wanderers. However, due to the lack of water, his mind starts to accept it as reality. When Max enters the settlement, he realizes that these people are indeed real. The name of the settlement is Barter Town, where people from various places gather to trade with one another. In that town, people engage in commerce, selling everything from small items to larger business deals. Right now, Max is in desperate need of water, so he moves among them, searching for something to drink. The entire settlement is filled with traders, and soon one of them approaches Max, trying to sell his product. However, Max informs him that he doesn't have a single penny to give. The truth is, some time ago, Max used to live with his wife and children. One day, while traveling through a desert area with his family, they were ambushed by some thugs who demanded all their belongings. Although Max handed over all their possessions for the safety of his family, the thugs brutally killed both his wife and children. Since then, Max has been living alone, feeling deep sorrow over this loss and wanting to take revenge. However, the extreme heat and lack of resources make it impossible for him to survive. Therefore, he decided to live a peaceful and solitary life. Now, Max asks the trader about the king of the place, meaning the man who is the leader of the entire settlement. The trader tells him that if he wants to meet the leader, he must first meet the collector who works for him. Only after getting an appointment can he meet the leader. The trader provided Max with the collector's address, after which Max immediately heads there. In front of the collector, Max says he wants to meet the leader. The collector immediately asks for the reason, as no one can meet the leader without a valid reason. Max then inquires about a man who drives a large car equipped with machines pulled by a camel. Max is searching for the thugs of the desert who killed his family. He hasn't forgotten his revenge, he just needed a little time to get comfortable. However, he had decided that he would surely punish all the murderers for the killings of his wife and daughter. After a moment of thought, the collector directly tells Max that he doesn't know anyone like that and that it would be better for him to leave. But now Max insists that he must meet the leader. He then pulls out his gun and points it at the collector, saying that if he isn't taken to the leader, he will be killed. The collector, valuing his life, takes Max into a tent where the leader resides. Upon entering, Max is completely shocked to find that the leader is not a male but a female. Max had heard many things about the leader of Barter Town being so brave that no one had ever attacked there. But here, the leader is a woman. For a moment, Max cannot believe his eyes. How can such a powerful position be held by a woman? The leader, named Entity, begins to ask Max about his purpose for being there, wanting to know why he has come. Max then explains that many years ago, he used to live happily with his family and children. I used to work as a police officer, dedicated and honest in my job. However, one day, some thugs from the desert captured us. They took all our money and brutally killed my wife and children. I managed to escape them in some way, but since that day, I have been filled with rage, and I am determined to eliminate those people at any cost. After sharing all this, Entity began to trust Max, realizing that he wasn't bad but rather shaped by his circumstances. She then shared a problem she was facing. Max was surprised to learn that the leader of this place had any problems. Entity explained that she had spent a lot of time building this city, which allowed everyone to survive. However, there were two people who were intent on killing her. They used to work in a large electricity department outside the settlement, which was entirely under their control. Our settlement relied on that department for electricity. As time passed, those two began to see themselves as the kings of that place, capable of cutting off the electricity whenever they wanted for their own use. Entity informed Max that if our settlement were to go without electricity for even one day, it would suffer significant losses, as our trade depended on it. The two brothers, who were working together, were making every possible effort to kill Entity. Entity saw in Max all the qualities of a warrior, which is why she made him an offer. She told Max that if he could eliminate those two brothers, she would provide him with whatever he desired. She would help him find them to kill. Max contemplated this for a while but ultimately agreed to Entity's offer. He finalized the deal with her, after which Entity and her people showed him the two brothers, whose names were Master and Blaster. One of the brothers was named Master. He was quite small but had a lot of brains and intelligence. On the other hand, the brother named Blaster was very brutish and could hardly think, but he had a large body, making him quite powerful. The two brothers complemented each other well. Master was the brain, and Blaster was the brawn, making it very difficult to defeat them. Because of these reasons, every time Entity sent her people to kill them, none returned alive. But this time, Entity had high hopes for Max that he would eliminate both of them quickly. Max began to feel a bit nervous, as he had never taken a life before. However, having finalized the deal with Entity, he was determined to carry out the task. Entity had given Max the freedom to kill the two brothers by any means necessary. If Max wanted to take one of them out quickly, he should eliminate Master first, because once Master was gone, Blaster would be nothing alone. Therefore, Max started planning to infiltrate the factory of the two brothers. Entity communicated with all her people to help Max reach the factory. Once inside, Max noticed that many people were working there. Master and Blaster used their strength to dominate everyone and force them to work. After observing the surroundings, Max realized that the brothers weren't just producing electricity for the city, they were also creating very dangerous weapons and vehicles for the desert gangsters. They even had the ability to manufacture cars that could easily run in the desert, and perhaps these were the same vehicles the desert thugs used. Max felt immense anger over these revelations, knowing that the desert gangsters used such weapons and cars to torture and kill innocent people, just as they had done to his family. He decided then and there that he would eliminate both Master and Blaster. To avoid arousing suspicion, Max began working among all the laborers. He must have devised some plans and was proceeding accordingly. He observed everything performed in the factory so that after eliminating both brothers, he could devise an escape plan, as there were many soldiers present who could take anyone's life on the brothers' orders. Max not only had to kill both of them but also find a way to exit safely. Thus, he was being very cautious with every step he took. Max continued to work as a laborer for several days, but suddenly, Master noticed him. Approaching Max with Blaster, Master began to question him about what he was doing there. Acting scared, Max explained that he had come to work only a few days ago and was completely unaware of the rules and regulations. Master, seeing Max's fear, decided not to act against him but started boasting about his intelligence. Max realized that Master was quite arrogant about his intellect, believing he was the smartest person in the entire place. Master began telling Max, "I am the king of this place. It is because of me that Barter Town receives electricity, and everything runs due to my brain. If that's the case, then I should be the new leader of Barter Town." Max understood that Master had become overly arrogant, thinking no one could match his intellect. Shortly after, Master and Blaster took Max to another chamber, the control room for the electricity sent to Barter Town. Without thinking, Master cut off the electricity, causing all business in Barter Town to come to a complete halt. No one had electricity anymore, and everyone was quite troubled by this. Consequently, they rushed to Entity seeking help. Now, Master was sending a message to Entity, demanding that Barter Town be handed over to him as soon as possible, or else he would continue cutting off the electricity, leading to the destruction of the entire town and halting all trade. After much deliberation, Entity ultimately agreed, not wanting to sacrifice the lives of so many traders and people for her ego. Thus, Entity decided to relinquish her post to Master, who would take charge from there. Meanwhile, Max was continuously plotting to eliminate Master and Blaster, keeping a close watch on them. However, due to his excessive spying, Master had begun to suspect Max. He called Max over and demanded to know his true identity. "If you don't tell me, I will kill you," he threatened. But Max started acting crazy, hoping that Master and Blaster would dismiss him as a mere madman. This tactic worked momentarily. They let him go, but Max realized that Master was still suspicious of him. Deciding it was time to leave, Max got into a car and accidentally pressed a strange button while trying to activate it. Upon pressing the button, loud alarms began blaring throughout the factory. The noise was unbearable for Master and Blaster, causing them intense pain, as they could not tolerate the sound. Max realized that this was the brothers' weakness. They could not withstand loud noises. Once the alarm stopped, Master and Blaster regained their senses, but their comrades had captured Max, who had triggered the alarm. Blaster grabbed Max roughly, demanding to know his truth. In a moment of desperation, Max pulled a whistle from his pocket and began blowing it loudly. The sound was so piercing that it caused both brothers to writhe in agony and lose consciousness right there. This provided Max with a perfect opportunity to escape, and he immediately took off, heading straight for. However, Max lied to Entity, claiming that he had killed both Master and Blaster at her command. In reality, the two were only unconscious for a short time. Nonetheless, Entity began to have doubts about Max, so she sent her collector to confirm whether Max had truly eliminated the brothers or not. When the collector infiltrated the crowd at their hideout, he discovered that Master and Blaster were alive, meaning Max had only knocked them out, not killed them. Upon learning this, the collector returned to inform Entity, who realized that Max had deceived them. Enraged, she imprisoned Max, who was forcibly brought into a large structure surrounded by prisoners. This entire area was a jail, and inside this structure, Max was taken against his will. Entity was present and told Max that he would have to face punishment. She explained that this place was called the Thunderdome, where two warriors would enter to fight. However, after the battle, only one warrior would emerge victorious. There was no concept of winning or losing, only the opponent would be killed, allowing one to exit alone. It became clear that this entire structure was a battleground, and Max had been brought there to fight. Before long, Max's opponent was brought into the Thunderdome, and to Max's dismay, it was none other than Blaster. He had come to fight at Entity's command. Max never imagined he would have to face Blaster, considering his massive size and immense power. Fearful, Max attempted to flee, but Entity's many associates caught him and forced him back, meaning he had no choice but to fight Blaster to escape. The Thunderdome was quickly sealed, and Master was furious with Max, charging at him immediately. Max struggled to attack, focusing instead on dodging Blaster's massive blows. Blaster's size was so intimidating that Max found it difficult to escape. He relentlessly battered Max, and with a huge hammer in hand, he mercilessly pounded him. Despite taking several hits from the hammer, Max suddenly remembered his whistle. He realized that making noise would weaken Blaster, so he bravely dodged Blaster's attacks and rushed to the fallen whistle on the ground. Without wasting any time, he started blowing the whistle loudly. The combined sound was unbearable for Blaster, causing him to drop his hammer. Being quite dim-witted, Blaster didn't even think to cover his ears, unaware that he could block the sound if he did so. Years ago, Blaster's face had been damaged for some reason, leading him to wear a simple helmet, which prevented him from blocking his ears. Max saw this as a golden opportunity to defeat Blaster. He swiftly grabbed Blaster's massive hammer and charged at him. Seizing the moment, Max struck Blaster with all his might, sending him crashing to the ground, completely unconscious. However, as Entity had stated before the fight began, one could only exit the Thunderdome by killing the opponent. If Blaster were in the position to kill Max, he wouldn't hesitate for a moment. After much contemplation, Max decided he had to eliminate Blaster. He approached Blaster with the heavy hammer, ready to finish him off. But just then, Master arrived, rushing into the Thunderdome. Although Master was much smaller, he was very clever. He immediately rushed to his brother Blaster and pleaded with Max, "Please don't kill my brother. We can't live without each other." But for some reason, Max had become completely emotionless, remembering all the terrible things those thugs had done to his family. He raised the hammer, determined to kill Blaster. However, Master, despite his small stature, was quite clever. He first took the whistle from Max, the one that emitted the sound, leaving Max with nothing to stop them. Just as Max was about to strike Blaster with the hammer, Master grabbed Max's legs, begging, "Please spare my brother, and I promise I'll do anything you want." Master's desperate pleas started to evoke pity in Max, causing him to hesitate. In that moment, he dropped the hammer, not wanting to harm Blaster. Master was astonished because they had tortured Max severely, and anyone else in his position would have killed them all. But Max was not like those others. Realizing that Max, a good warrior, was also a good person, Master cancelled his plan to kill him. He said, "Now my brother and I are your slaves. We will do whatever you ask." In fact, Max had come to this place only to find out who had killed his wife and children. He had no intention of enslaving anyone. Observing the condition of the entire town, Max decided he would first take care of everything in the town and provide the people with a good life. He understood that the development of the townsfolk couldn't happen until the conflict between Master, Blaster, and Entity was resolved. Max then ordered Master and Blaster to extend a hand of friendship to Entity. Though Entity was reluctant to agree, the people present were fully supporting Max. Now, due to the overwhelming support Max received, Entity had to agree to the terms. This meant that from now on, Master Blaster, who used to provide electricity, would work together with Entity, ensuring that business never faltered. If this system continued, their town would prosper significantly, and they would gradually expand the area. Max had done an excellent job here, but he could have easily become the new leader of the entire town. Master Blaster had become his slaves at that moment, and Entity was nearly ready to concede to Master Blaster. If Max had decided to claim leadership, there would have been no one to stop him. Everyone was so terrified of Master Blaster and Entity that Max had effectively defeated them, which meant he deserved to be the new leader of that place. If he had taken on that role, he could have developed the entire town well. However, Max sacrificed all of that. He considered himself just an ordinary man, and his only objective was to take revenge for the deaths of his family. He knew that Master Blaster was responsible for his family's demise, as the brothers were known for manufacturing weapons and bombs in their factory. Those weapons were used by the desert thugs to attack unsuspecting travelers and rob them. If Master Blaster didn't produce those weapons, the desert bandits wouldn't have had anything to attack with, and no crimes would have occurred. But Max acted wisely. He could have eliminated both Blaster and Master together, but he understood that as long as they were around, there would be fear in the town. He realized that good actions would lead to significant development for the town because the townspeople generally obeyed Master Blaster and Entity. For all these reasons, Max chose not to kill Master Blaster. Max decided he wouldn't stay in the area much longer and prepared to leave on his horse. However, he still hadn't found the exact leads on who had killed his family. But he would find them, no matter how many times he had to traverse the desert. Max immediately set off on his journey through the sweltering heat, which was a long and exhausting trek. However, Max paid no heed to anyone and kept moving forward. And so, our adventurous story ends here.